Hi there, crafty friends. This is Irene from Artemis Made, and today I am making my card for Craft Roulette. So, if you can see here, I am doing a really simple cover plate card where it's just one die and some ink blending, basically, and then we step it up just a little bit. But here I am just cutting down some black cardstock. I didn't measure it. I just basically cut down a panel that I knew would be I'd be able to cut out my cover plate here. But first, I gotta hold it in place with my little buddy here, Sticky the Sloth. He holds my mint tape for me. Very, very handy. He always does a great job. So here I'm just gonna make sure that my cover plate die is stuck in place, and I'm gonna run it through my die cutting machine off screen. Now you can see that cut like butter is beautiful. So, and it's not as sturdy as I would like because the paper is a little thinner weight than what I would normally use. So off screen I went ahead and cut out two more, so I'd have three in total. Now here I am cutting apart at 4 1/4. I'm cutting my Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock in the 110-pound weight, and I'm using these 3 different distress oxides. Now I'm basically going for a night sky look. I think it did end up a little more blue than what I had originally intended. I kind of wanted it to be a bit darker, but you know what? I actually kind of love it. So it's okay. These blues are pretty close in color, so you get a really, really subtle change in that tone. So the ombre really ends up working out. So here you can see I'm just kind of going back and forth over the different layers, making sure that I'm building up that color. And you can see where it goes from lighter and then a very subtle change to the darker evening sky. And I grabbed that panel because I kind of want to make sure that when I go over it, I've got the right dimensions for it, basically, because I'm going to put some gold underneath where the stars should be. And you can see that here I'm using the Simon Hurley Slippery When Wet Lunar paste. Now basically I'm just using my little knife here, or palette knife, to spread it across the top. So again, I'm going to be using my cover die over that so that it basically looks like the stars are shining through the night sky. So there I am testing it out, making sure that I'm going the right way, liking how it looks. And since it comes down a bit, I'm making sure that the gold also comes down a bit. Now, if I did this again, I probably would do more gold coming down further, but I think I still got the look across that I was going for. Now here I am using some liquid glue, and I'm going to build up that sturdiness of these die cuts by gluing them together. So I won't put you through the agony of watching me glue this meticulously, but there's the second layer, and then I'm just making sure it lined up really, really nicely. And then here's a third layer, gluing that together as well, and now I have a nice sturdy die cut. And it just lined up so beautifully. I couldn't believe how well that worked, because sometimes you have to wiggle it into place and things, but that one it lined right up. So there I'm testing it again, making sure I like it. And now I'm going to use my lunar paste again, but in a different way. This is where I step it up just a little bit. So I am spraying some water onto just a little piece of that lunar paste that I put on my glass board, and I'm going to dab it off using this fan brush, and I'm going to get some more little flecks of stars into the night sky. So that way I have that big patch of gold at the top that's going to shine through the cover plate, and then I've got a bunch of stars in the night sky, so that the plate, the cover die, looks like it's just swinging against the night sky. And now this I left in just to show you how easy it is to clean. I do recommend cleaning the lunar paste quickly because it can dry pretty fast, but all you have to do is basically spray down some water, rub your fan brush in it, get it all nice and cleaned off, and then wipe off your surface. That simple. And you can see how beautifully that gold just shimmers in the light. I absolutely love it. It does dry quickly, like I said, but because I was going to be die cutting with my rectangle die here, I wanted to go ahead and make sure it's extra, extra dry. So here I am pulling my little foam squares because I want to give it some dimension, make sure that I like the way it looks before I cut the blue panel, because I want to make sure I cut it in exactly the right spot. Now, this did go a little bit wonky on me because I didn't notice when I ran out of that first little sheet of foam squares that this one I grabbed actually is a higher loft. So you'll see at one point where I start turning it to the side and looking at it and wondering about it, and it's because I realized I used 2 different heights of foam squares. So that was not going to work. I was going to have to come back and redo. And here, kind of like Kathy Zilski likes to say, I too am an over-adheser. I clearly need all kinds of foam squares there. I could have done tape, but because of those little cutouts, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't showing the tape through it, so I basically just went with the squares. Now here I'm just holding down my rectangle die from Hero Arts. I'm going to cut out the shape and I'm going to pop it out of the page. And here we go. So now I've got the exact right A2 size, which is 4¼ by 5½. And I am going to cut down some more of my Nina Classic Crust cardstock. This one I'm cutting into a top folding card. So I grab my score buddy and I'm going to score it at the 5½-inch mark. Now when you score, it helps if you fold against the score, and that way you have a really nice flat card. So I'm using my my bone folder there to score it down, or to flatten it a little bit more. Here is where I noticed that something went wrong. So now you can see I'm actually pulling back up some of those foam squares. Total waste. That was entirely my mistake. But good thing is I did have a few more left of the low loft squares. So I went ahead and replaced those. Now here I am using a trick by Natasha Foote where she uses 4 pieces of double-sided tape and then the 5th one in the middle, and she pushes it down. And you can see I'm also using my score buddy again, but in a different way. I am making sure that I line up the edges very carefully with the score buddy. And I did it again here. I put some liquid glue just to have a little wiggle room, but when you use that edge of the score buddy, lining it up really is very simple. And you can see here it lined up beautifully, and I tilt it just to make sure, but looking good. Now here I am auditioning a few different sentiments just to see which one I like. That one was a little bit too big, but I ended up using one that was already on my MESC, which is my messy desk, craft roulette term there. And I also had to cover one of the parameters for the week, which was hand cut. So here I am hand cutting my sentiment. Now I really like that it says I look up to you, because the swing, you know, looking up into the sky, it really made me smile. So I thought it was a good use. So I'm first cutting it down with my Tim Holtz scissors because I get a nice straight line, or as straight as I can by doing it by hand. But then I move to my Cutter Bee, my fussy cutting scissors. I love these because it's very simple to do that little banner cut on your own. Just cut a slit in the middle and then cut from the edges into the middle, and then you have a perfect diagonal. Works great every time. So I'm using some more of those foam squares and putting them on the back of my sentiment here. Now what I did sort of on accident is that 5th foam square, technically the first one I put on there, I meant to do a smaller one like I'm replacing here, because I'm actually going over that first of the 2 parts of the swing, I guess, that are pulling down from the sky. I wanted to go over it, and where I had the foam tape was right on it. So I just moved it basically, and then I cut down the part that was hanging off, and I'm all good to go on my sentiment. Now, I do love putting on some embellishment, so I'm using my Studio Katia gold confetti sequins just to bring in more of that gold. And I don't know what it is about me in sequins, but for some reason it takes me ages to place it. This is probably the part of card making that takes me the longest. I am so indecisive about where to put my sequins. So I cut out all of the back and forth that I was doing, and here's the final product. I glued it down with a little bit of liquid glue, and it's good to go. The card is done. And you can see there that Lunar paste is shining beautifully through the moon, through the stars. It does shine even more in person. It's a little hard to see on camera. But now here is the craft roulette parameters for the week. So let's see if I managed it. Project was card with a ribbon. So I used my Distress Oxide prize ribbon color. And then the actual colors were circus. I used Cirque du Soleil blue and gold from their Drawn to Life series. And then for the September element, I just purchased this die, so I'm considering that during Stamptember, I purchased that picket fence die. So that's my September element. And then the last part was fussy cutting or hand cutting. So I used my little scissors and I cut up my sentiment. I think I nailed it. I think it counts. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. I really, really did like that whole pulling from the sky dreamy element. It just made me happy. So this card is going to be for someone special in my life who I absolutely look up to. So thank you so much for joining me today and for making with me. I really appreciate it, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one. Take care. Thanks. Bye.